everything you chase, money, recognition, success, in the end, it might not mean anything. Solomon had everything: wealth, power, wisdom, pleasure, glory. And yet, he wrote one of the most disturbing sentences in the Bible. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. This video is not comfortable. It is necessary. Because Ecclesiastes was not written to encourage. It was written to awaken. Today you will learn 18 lessons that transcend time, challenge the heart, and reposition the soul. If you're tired of running without understanding why, this video is for you. When Solomon begins writing Ecclesiastes, he offers no consolation. It offers a shock. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. This is not the speech of a frustrated man. It's the confession of someone who reached the top and realized that the top doesn't sustain the soul. Solomon looks at life with the eyes of someone who has had everything. And the first lesson is harsh, direct, impossible to ignore. Nothing in this world is permanent. Everything passes. Everything slips through our fingers. What seems firm today may no longer be there tomorrow. Beauty fades. Power changes hands. Glory loses its luster. Life doesn't stay still. It flows. Then comes the second truth, even more uncomfortable. The world keeps turning without you. The sun rises. The sun sets. The rivers flow into the sea, and the sea is never full. Generations come. Generations go. Creation follows its course, indifferent to our achievements and our dramas. Solomon realizes something that many take a lifetime to accept. The universe does not revolve around man. And that hurts the ego, because human beings like to feel indispensable. But Ecclesiastes dismantles this illusion right at the beginning. The third lesson arises from this clash. Working without purpose tires the soul. Solomon asks, what does man gain from all his labor? It's not a question about laziness. It's a question about meaning. You can work hard, strive, and achieve, and yet still feel empty when you lay your head on the pillow. Because the problem isn't the effort. That is the destiny of this effort. When work doesn't point toward something bigger, it becomes a burden. It becomes repetitive. It becomes survival without life. Then Solomon moves on to the fourth lesson, perhaps the most silent and dangerous of all. Seeking meaning apart from God produces emptiness. He observes human knowledge, wisdom, intelligence. And he concludes that even that, when separated from God, becomes tiresome. Knowing a lot doesn't heal the heart. Understanding everything doesn't bring peace. There are pains that the mind cannot resolve. And here Ecclesiastes begins to corner us. Because, without realizing it, we find ourselves inside the text. Running, building, planning, but rarely asking, why? Solomon is not saying that life is worthless. He is saying that life without God loses its balance. It loses its center. He loses his bearings. Everything turns to vapor. Everything turns into a rush. Everything becomes a relentless effort without inner rest. And the first topic ends with a question that resonates in the heart of anyone who listens sincerely. Are you building something that will last? Or just chasing after the wind? After confronting the emptiness of existence, Solomon does what many do in silence. He decides to test pleasure. If life seems meaningless, perhaps joy will solve it. If the heart is restless, perhaps contentment will soothe it. And then he embarks on an intense, profound, limitless quest. No more. He is celebrating. He allows himself everything. And the fifth lesson emerges without embellishment. Pleasure promises joy, but delivers silence. At first, laughter seems to heal. The fun feels like a relief. But when the night ends and the noise dies down, the emptiness remains. Pleasure alone doesn't sustain you through to the next day. It distracts, but it doesn't transform. Solomon writes something disturbing. He said of laughter, "It is madness." Not because laughter is wrong, but because laughter was not created to be the foundation of life. When pleasure becomes the foundation, it crumbles quickly. Then he moves on to something nobler. Wisdom, knowledge, discernment, deep understanding of life. If pleasure doesn't fulfill you, perhaps understanding will. And so the sixth lesson is born. Human wisdom has limits. Solomon realizes that the more he understands, the more he sees the pain, injustice, human frailty, the brevity of life. Knowledge broadens perspectives, but it also increases burden. Knowing too much doesn't save the heart. There are questions that reason cannot answer. And yet, he continues searching. He builds. He accumulates. He surrounds himself with the best that the world has to offer. This is where the seventh lesson emerges, silent and dangerous. The human heart is never satisfied on its own. Something is always missing. There's always the next target, the next achievement, the next wish. Not because it's necessary, but because the inner emptiness pushes forward. The problem isn't wanting more. It's believing that more will solve everything. Solomon looks at all that he has acquired and realizes something frightening. Even surrounded by abundance, the heart remains restless. The soul remains hungry. And then comes the eighth lesson, perhaps the hardest for those who live by results. Even great achievements can lose their meaning. Palaces are impressive. Grandiose works attract attention. But Solomon realizes that all of this will be left to someone else. Someone will inherit what he built. Someone will enjoy what he sweated to build. And this confronts him deeply. Because when success is not given to God, it becomes future frustration. Ecclesiastes does not condemn pleasure. It does not condemn wisdom. It doesn't condemn success. He simply reveals the truth that few want to face. Without God at the center, everything loses its meaning over time. And topic 2 ends with a warning that resonates to this day. If God is not the foundation, even what seems like victory can turn into emptiness. After traversing the void, the pleasure, and the illusion of human control, Solomon leads the reader to one of the best-known and, at the same time, most misunderstood passages in Ecclesiastes. He talks about time, but not in a poetic way. He speaks in a surgical manner. There's time for everything. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to cry and a time to laugh. Herein lies the ninth lesson. Man does not control time. He can plan, organize, and predict, but he cannot control. Time doesn't ask for permission. He arrives. He'll pass by. He takes it. Solomon understood something that modern humans struggle to accept. Life doesn't respond to our schedules. You may be ready or you may not. Time comes in the same way. And anguish arises when we try to hold on to what was meant to pass. Then comes the 10th lesson. Life is made up of seasons. Nothing is constant. Not the door. Not joy. Not even success. Not the preda. The problem is that the human heart insists on turning phases into prisons. When you're suffering, you think it will never end. When it prospers, it believes it will never end. But Ecclesiastes reminds us that everything changes. Everything is in flux. Everything moves. And whoever resists the passage of time suffers twice. He is grieving the loss, and it suffers because of the resistance. Solomon then reveals something profound. God has placed eternity in the heart of man. This is the 11th lesson. There is a longing within us that nothing here can fully satisfy. That's why the unease never goes away. That's why the soul always wants more. It's not greed. It's a longing for eternity. Humans try to fill this space with fleeting things. Work, relationships, achievements. But the space is too big. He was made for God. And then Solomon touches on a sensitive point. Even without understanding everything, man needs to trust. Because there is a higher order operating beyond our comprehension. Not everything will be explained. Not everything will make sense right now. Here comes the 12th lesson. Trying to control everything is vanity. Anxiety arises when man tries to take the place of God. When you want to decide the timing, the outcome, the result. But peace is born when he accepts his limitations. Solomon does not teach passive resignation. He teaches mindful resting. Yes to work. Planning, yes. But without any illusion of absolute control. Time is not in man's hands. It's in God's hands. And when that truth descends from the intellect to the heart, something changes. The rush eases. The weight is lifted. The comparison loses its power. Because those who understand time learn to live in the present. No anxiety about tomorrow. No guilt about yesterday. And so, Ecclesiastes leads us to a rare wisdom. Rest at the right time, even when we don't understand the paths. After discussing time and the limits of human control, Solomon leads the reader into even more uncomfortable territory. He looks at reality as it is, not as we would like it to be, and what he sees is disturbing. There is injustice where justice was expected. There is oppression where there should be protection. The righteous suffer. The wicked prosper. This leads to the 13th lesson. Life doesn't always seem fair. Ecclesiastes does not attempt to sugarcoat this truth. He doesn't spiritualize pain. He observes. He records it. He acknowledges it. Solomon sees corrupt courts, unjust leaders, and good people being crushed by wicked systems. And this raises a silent question in the heart of the reader. Where is God when all this happens? But Solomon doesn't stop at rebellion. He moves forward. And then comes the 14th lesson. God sees what man ignores. Even when injustice seems to triumph, it is not beyond the reach of the divine gaze. There is a set time for every trial. There will come a time when everything will be exposed. The problem is that human beings want immediate justice. God works with eternal justice. And it is in this interval between now and later that faith is tested. Solomon also observes something profound. Oppression doesn't just wound the body, it wounds the soul. Those who live crushed by injustice lose hope, loses its joy. It loses its meaning. And here he offers a simple yet powerful key to wisdom. 15th lesson. Living simply is wisdom. Better a little with inner peace than a lot with constant anxiety. A moderate life is better than an endless race to have more. Solomon realizes that the unbridled pursuit of wealth and position generates more anxiety than peace. The more you have, the more you fear losing. The higher you climb, the more lonely you become. Abundance without contentment becomes a prison. And then he touches on another sensitive point. The fear of the future. 16th lesson. Anxiety about tomorrow steals the present. Those who live anticipating disasters do not enjoy the blessings of the present. Those who spend their time trying to predict everything lose the ability to be grateful. Solomon teaches something rare in a fast-paced world, learning to enjoy what God gives, in the time He gives. Eat. To work. Rest. Find joy in the little things. This is not conformity. It is mature wisdom. Ecclesiastes shows us that, even in a broken world, it is possible to live with dignity, gratitude, and balance. Not because everything is fair, but because God remains in control. And topic 4 ends with a truth that confronts the heart. Those who learn to trust in God in the midst of injustice discover a peace that the world cannot steal. After discussing time and the limits of human control, Solomon leads the reader into even more uncomfortable territory. He doesn't look at the ideal. He looks at stark reality, and what he sees is too harsh to ignore. He observes injustice where there should be justice. He sees oppression where there should be care. You realize that often, those who do good suffer, while those who act badly prosper. And he doesn't try to downplay it. This leads to the 13th lesson. Life doesn't always seem fair. Ecclesiastes does not promise immediate balance. It doesn't guarantee that everything will fall into place quickly. He simply reveals the truth. The world is broken. And pretending it isn't only makes the pain worse. Solomon sees tears that no one can comfort. People crushed by cruel systems. Voices silenced by power. And for a moment, it seems that injustice has won. But he doesn't get stuck in that human gaze. He raises his eyes. And then comes the 14th lesson. God sees what man ignores. Nothing goes unnoticed. No oppression is invisible. No injustice is beyond divine reach. The problem is that the man wants justice now. God works with justice in His own time. And it is in this interval between what we see and what God will do that faith is tested. Solomon understands that injustice reveals not the absence of God, but the limitations of our vision. God is not absent. He is operating on a higher level than we are able to perceive. In this harsh scenario, Solomon displays unexpected wisdom. 15th lesson. Living simply is an act of wisdom. Better a little with peace than a lot with anxiety. Better a balanced life than an existence consumed by ambition. He realizes that the relentless pursuit of wealth, status, and power creates more anxiety than security. The more you have, the more you fear losing. The more it accumulates, the more restless the heart becomes. Abundance without contentment becomes a prison. And then he touches on a deep wound in the human heart. 16th lesson. Fear of the future steals the present. Those who constantly anticipate the worst don't enjoy the present. Those who live dominated by anxiety lose the ability to be grateful. Solomon teaches something rare: learning to enjoy the simple gifts that God bestows. Honest work, food on the table, rest at the end of the day. Joy is possible, even in an imperfect world. This is not conformity. It is spiritual maturity. Ecclesiastes shows that, even surrounded by injustice, man can live with dignity, faith, and balance. Not because everything is fair, but because God remains sovereign. Final conclusion. After traversing emptiness, pleasure, time, and injustice, Ecclesiastes leads us to an inevitable point. Life without God loses its meaning. But life with God provides direction, even when it doesn't find answers. Solomon teaches us that wisdom is not about controlling everything, understanding everything, or always winning. Wisdom is recognizing limitations, accepting time, trusting in divine justice, and living in reverence before God. In the end, Ecclesiastes does not call us to give up on life. He calls us to live it the right way, with God at the center, with the heart aligned, with feet on the ground and eyes on eternity, because everything passes. But those who fear God find a meaning that endures.